Hi, welcome to this preview video for Temple of Horrors. This is a unique, very different and highly satisfying dungeon crawler. It uses very fresh and innovative mechanisms, a lot of different ideas and a different approach, but also some unique and common ground throughout all the dungeon crawling genre. I really enjoyed this game because even though it has a lot of rules and there is a lot of things to digest, it offers a lot of options. You can have a simple and tutorial missions, you can have easy adventures, medium adventures or hard adventures, but they all follow a very specific feeling and way of playing. They are heroes that they dive into a dungeon, they're trying to find different shards because without them they cannot escape. They're trying to wake up some of the bosses, defeat them, kill them, steal the artifact and get out of the temple in order to win the game. Of course, this can vary depending on the adventure. The game comes with 100 adventures with a lot of different play style. You can also have campaign, solo, player versus player, but also the normal co-op game. But no matter the mode, the game gives a very interesting feeling because it offers all the typical aspects that you expect in a game, like exploring, fighting minions and bosses and different type of enemies and creatures, upgrading yourself with experience and progressing your character and improving your stats, which is really cool, but also exploring different things, making treasure checks, getting loot, getting coins, mystic coins, and getting a lot of more interesting and more useful equipment. But the game offers some very cool and unique ideas, among many, in my opinion. One of them is, for example, as you explore the tile, typically in those dungeons, you either have a preset dungeon that you go in and you start going from room to room, or you are opening randomly tiles and you're placing them as you go across the edges of your doorways or edges of your tile. In this game, you have a market, a display of tiles. And you have always a selection of 6 plus a random throw from the pile if you don't like any of the 6 available. Why this is important? Because you can shape the dungeon in a very specific way in order to fit both your strategy, which is very important, but also trying to make some patterns because you want to reach a predefined room in a specific location by following an influence, an inspirational path, by making a specific configuration of tiles, and then at the end you reach, for example, I don't know, the exit or an artifact to steal or something like that, depending on the adventure. So it's very unique because the random effect of picking a tile and just having to deal with that and expanding your dungeon goes away because you have very much control of how you shape your dungeon. It's the best of the party's benefit to decide how to make it best in order to make sure that this serves both your exploration and your strategy tactically, but also serves your goal to reach a final destination. You also have clues that you gain in order to pick up a specific and identify a specific room in the dungeon according to clues that you pull from a different location of tiles that provide you different abilities to pick up a clue and start deducing areas so that you can narrow it down to one specific tile room in the dungeon. Visually it's fascinating and amazing. It has this wall system that gives a very realistic 3D element to the game, but this is just on the aesthetic point of view. I'm talking still about the gameplay. I'm really fascinated about the new ideas and the fresh ideas of the gameplay. I understand there are a lot of rules to digest, but this is not, let's say, an introductory dungeon crawler. It can be played with just introductory tutorial rules, but the full potential where the game shines if you put everything together and you play a full session with all the rules, where you get to really get a great satisfaction, a great gameplay feeling from navigating a party of heroes through the dangerous shadows of the temple, I don't know, dungeon or whatever corridors of the temple, trying to get your achievement and your goal and get out alive. Really blown by this game. I think this will definitely be a choice for a lot of fans in the genre. Another cool aspect is the combat system. It has throwing cubes, but you're trying to flicker them in order so that they go in specific regions, and then you have modifiers to get more hit points, you have dodge points to avoid hits from the opponents, etc. And the AI system of the creatures is really cool and clever. So all this boils down to give a really fascinating dungeon crawling experience. Nothing else like you've played before. I really enjoyed and loved it, and I highly recommend it. I'm going to put in the description the link to the GameFound campaign page where you can find more details about the game. So follow that and let me show you how the game plays, and I'll come back at the end of this video for some final wrap-up opinion about the Temple of Horrors. A mighty artifact is hidden in a forgotten temple. An obscure spell makes it unreachable. The only way to break this arcane magic is to find the tombs of the evil champions, which rest in the temple, evocate them and defeat all of them. Find the artifact and escape from the temple before all evil creatures dwelling in the temple wake up. Explore an ancient dungeon, avoid traps, kill monsters, challenge bosses, grab treasures, gain experience points, increase your character abilities, and enjoy this horror dungeon crawler for 1 to 4 players. The Forgotten Artifact introduced above is only one of the 100 available adventures in Temple of Horrors. As each adventure will resolve differently at every play, with Temple of Horrors you will have 1,000 game sessions available for infinite gameplay. So let's dive into the overview of this new dungeon crawler and see what's all about. Players must face a dungeon. Many creatures dwell there: minions, creatures, goblins, spiders, skeletons and specters. These are the less dangerous monsters, but there are many. Leaders are more challenging and appear when too many minions have been alerted. Finally, bosses represent a big risk. They usually guard the place and have unique and mighty powers. The dungeon map is created by players placing room tiles from the room display. It's essential how room tiles are placed. For example, in some adventures placing many rooms connected of the same colors, players can activate room clues and tomb rooms. Both rooms, tombs, can be activated killing the boss there. Drop clues. Clues can identify a specific room tile where something important is hidden in the adventure. For example, an artifact, a prison, a treasure, a level to switch and open the exit, and so on. Other difficulties will challenge players. For example, sudden crash of a temple roof can block the heroes, or maybe some mysterious presence can whisper the way is shut. To open the exit, players should receive a map card which shows them the path of the inspiration, the so-called inspiration path. Creating this specific path on the dungeon may activate and open the exit, for example. The same map card can show the guard post where packs of creatures dwell, waiting for minimal noise to wake up and attack. Choose your hero between 7 characters: Barbarian, Cleric, Thief, Bard, Mage, Monk and Ranger, and each hero has a card deck which represents a unique power and the specific playstyle of this character. Players start with an active card and can purchase new cards during the game, spending their experience points. Each hero owns items, and several item cards can be found in the treasures or bought with mystic coins. Time to create a hero's party and dive into the adventure. So let's familiarize ourselves with the game contents. First of all, we have 72 room tiles. Players place a room tile on the table, taking it from the room display, then assemble the dungeon along the way. Some room tiles show a special symbol, so let's see what those mean. For example, you can have this symbol on a dungeon tile. These are trap rooms. When a hero comes inside this room, they can activate a trap. We also have dangerous rooms with a skull icon. Dangerous rooms are rooms where a hero comes inside, risks an encounter with some creatures. Then we have the clues rooms. This room must be activated when a hero can find a clue there. Let's see the next bunch. So I'm just placing them on top so that we can see the different symbols. We have this symbol, which is a tomb room. This room can be activated when a hero can open the tomb. When opened, a boss appears. We have also healing rooms, like this one. Heroes entering this one can heal their wounds. We have library rooms, where activating this room a hero can discover where magic shards are hidden. And then we could have, for example, this type of rooms, with modifiers, either +1 or +2. So this type of room, this is a laboratory room. Activating this room, a hero can teleport in another room. You also have animated weapons rooms. Activating this room, hero can destroy a close creature group. And then we have modifier number rooms, where creatures move in this room gain an extra movement, or 2 extra movements with a +2. We also have empty rooms with no symbols, and we have in addition 4 big room tiles, which are these, which are special because they're not connected adjacent to the previous rooms. They just overlap a square of 2 by 2 in order to indicate that you have created a big room. Then we have the hour board. This is this board in front of you, and this board shows the current game hour, which is tracked on this track over there with this disc, and of course the completed side quests that you can find for each section. The creature HP is also used to track the health for the creature and the boss's HPs on the lower tracks there. Another unique game component are the combat boards. Players roll on the combat board, which is this one over here, in order to attack opponents and do saving throws when a player threatens them like a trap. This is a very interesting game, and we're going to explain it down the road, but you can roll or flick mana cubes so that they reach specific areas, and they apply after making the preparation for the combat and resolution of the modifiers. You see how many hit points you generate. Very interesting system, and we'll come back at the end to describe it a bit more. Then we have various other components that like walls, barriers, breaches, status tokens, adventure tokens, elite and guard post tokens, XPs, like those stars here, magic shards, which are these crystals over here, path tokens, which show the +1 damage if you're following the inspiration path, which I'm going to explain later on. We have 20 hour markers and 12 movement tokens that you can see there, and those black cubes over there, which are the movement tokens. Hour markers track the current hour, which is 1 disc, and they also have the accomplished side quests, which are 16 cubes for those over here. And the bosses, HPs, 3 cubes on the hour board, and the movement tokens are used on rooms to track the creature available movements. We have 70 action cubes, 10 in each of the color of the players. For example, the barbarian has these purple, orange cubes, and you have various colors that they are for the different type of heroes that you can get and decide to play as in this dungeon crawler. You have initiative cubes. Essentially it's 1 cube from each of the colors that they are rolled in order to indicate initiative. In those you also include 2 more cubes. For example, you have 1 cube from each of the players participating, and then you have also a black and a red cube for the creatures, which is the black, and 1 red, which is for the melee. Very interesting initiative system we're going to see in a bit. Then you have 48 mana cubes, those white cubes that you also flick or roll for combat. You have 24 stat meeples and 8 final stat meeples, which are those shields and swords tokens over there. You have, of course, metal mystic coins, 8 gold and 27 silver, and they're very nice as well because they have this nice mystic knowledge tree or something like that. Then you have 69 item cards. This is the deck of the item cards, and they also have specific icons on the back of each of those indicating different things. But here I have already laid, as you can see, a market, which is part of the setup, with 6 cards with the barrier card at the end of the row. And this is an area where players can buy different equipment, but also equip themselves better for the adventure. These are very, very useful during the campaign. Players draw item cards to check item available in a treasure, and the back side of the item cards, the icons indicated on the back of each of the card, are used to randomize and counter traps and some adventure elements. We have 28 hero translucent markers, which are the yellow ones over here. These are current experience points, XPs, XP reserve, XP mana, and action improvement tokens are used on hero boards to show the current hero stats. For example, each player starts with 7 of them, 1 on the health, the starting health of the hero, which is dotted, for the barbarian is 9, and on the rest 6 go at the 0 spot for each of those 6 different tracks for the stats. We have 77 hero cards. There are 7 hero decks with 11 cards each 10 power cards and 1 deck card. These are unique for each character. So for example, this is a barbarian, and they have unique powers that you can buy and unlock with experience that really help you with your quest, and they also support the playstyle of the barbarian respectively. So this is for the barbarian. You also have for all the different type of heroes, for the thief, for the bard, for the ranger, etc., with a different color. So 10 power cards and 1 deck card, maybe used for randomizer as well. You also have 30 bosses cards, which are the ones with the red back. The bosses deck contains a description of the powerful creatures of the game. When a boss appears, you draw a card and read the card description, and some adventures can require a specific boss of a specific color. We're going to explain later on. Then you have clue cards, like those. The clue deck contains the clues to find specific item or place in the dungeon map. You combine different clues to identify a single room tile, and the clue cards are used in some adventures. You also have 15 map cards, and one of those is the one that I have here for demonstration. And these map cards show the specific guard post position, like this one, that one, and that one, where you can find and evoke the bosses. Also, a creature pack is hidden in each of the guard posts, and players must recreate the inspiration path in order to activate the specific effect, like opening a door or finding a tomb or something. So this is, of course, you don't start like this. I just place the tiles face down so that I can show you how, for example, recreating this inspiration path, if it is used in the adventure, would look like, for example, and we're going to use it in the explanation. You also have 5 blue PvP cards. The PvP deck is used in the PvP modular variant to define which player plays as a traitor trying to sabotage the mission with other players. And of course you have a rulebook and an adventure book. Last but not least, let's focus on our minis. First of all, you have 7 hero miniatures. The hero miniatures represent the heroes of the dungeon maps, and each player uses a corresponding miniature on their hero top. So on the hero, matching the hero board, for example, the barbarian mini for the barbarian dashboard. So here you have, for example, on the top, on this row, you have the ranger, you have the bard, you have the mage, you have the monk, and then you have also the cleric. I have also selected 2 more to start this demonstration video for you, which are the barbarian and the thief respectively. Okay, so let's see now the enemies. We have 3 bosses miniatures, bosses, which are these 3 over here. Bosses represent the most potent creatures in the dungeon. They are many, so use any of the 3 miniatures to symbolize them. So you have the demon, which is this one. You have then the succubus, which is this one. And then you have the greater mummy. So I think I have misplaced this one, so this is the 3rd boss. You can use any of those for representing your boss, and of course you can also use other minis as well. These are used for showing the bosses that you play. Then you have 4 leaders, which are those 4 over here. These leader miniatures represent stronger creatures. They are the Lich, which is this one. You also have the Spider Princess, which is this one. You have the Mummy, which is this one. And then you have the Elemental, which is this one. And of course you have 40 minion miniatures, various miniatures like spiders, which are here, goblins, which are those, very nicely done miniatures, specters, like those, and then you also have, of course, skeletons, like those. These are the lesser minions. Okay, let's move to the general setup. First, you place a starting room, which is this one. This is the entrance, and you can have it as open or blocked, and the same goes for the exit, which is a second tile. Usually you need to find, for example, evoke the bosses, kill them, get the artifact, kill them, and then get out of the tomb. This is a typical adventure. Of course, there are many. You find the starting room, the entrance, and you put it on the edge of the table. You leave plenty of space to build the dungeon of the map above the entrance. You will never go below the level of the entrance tile. So you need to be aware that you need a lot of space above the entrance, always. The dungeon may never extend behind the starting room. Each player chooses a hero and places his or her miniature in the starting room. You take the 4 big room tiles and place them behind the starting room. Big room tiles are those, and just to show you, when you have 4 red ones, you can put it in the middle because you have created a big red room, and you leave it there to indicate that this is a big red room connected with all the tiles. We're going to explain that, but you have for all the 4 colors, blue, yellow, green and red, the big room tile, which doesn't sit adjacent to other tiles, it just sits on top of 4 to show that it's a big room. But we're going to explain it later on again. Then you draw 6 room tiles and place them in the visible area of the table. These are the room display. So this is my pack of shuffled room tiles face down, and then I have 6 face up, indicating the room tile display. In this game, unlike other games, it's very crucial to select specific room tiles so that you construct the dungeon in a way that serves your adventure, like creating an inspiration path or making a big room configuration so that you can get clues, etc. So that's why there is always a display of 6 tiles for the players to select which tiles they want to use respectively to unfold the exploration portion of the game. Then you shuffle the bosses, maps and clues, and you create deck to place them next to the starting to the playing area. So bosses, maps and clues respectively. And also you have the item deck, which is shuffled and placed face down. You place the hour track board on the table, and you put the hour token with this disc on the first spot on the space on the left, and you keep the other marker hours, the 16 brown or orange cubes, near the board. Each player takes a hero board matching the character that they want to play in the game, 7 yellow transparent cubes, a combat board, each player has their own combat board, and their hero power deck. You place your hero player marker, yellow cube, on your designated dashed starting HP, health of your hero. So for barbarian is 9, so I place 1 yellow cube there, and I place the rest of the 6 transparent yellow cubes on the starting spot of each of those 6 tracks, which indicate the stats of the hero on the 0 of the respective tracks. Then you remove the card with the same front and back, which is the card number 69. This is going to be the last card in your display row of items, where it clearly states, it's number 69, where it clearly states to take a barrier, door or bridge tile from the game reserve and place them on those cards, so you have a stock over there. They're going to be replenished, but we're going to explain this later on. Once this is done, then you open 5 more cards, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this card is placed, card 69, on the 6th and last spot of the row, and you create the item display. Then you reshuffle the item card deck and place it near the other decks. Last but not least, you place the initiative cubes, 1 for each of the players, 1 black cube for the creatures, 1 red cube for the melee, and the rest of the cubes for the players participating, and you place them here. So I have only placed 2 heroes there, but imagine if I had other players with their respective cubes, then the initiative pool would contain 1 cube from each of those players, which we will be rolling together, of course, with the red and the black cube. Of course, this is a 1 to 4 players game, so at top we're going to have 1, 2, let's say 3, 4. It's just that you have different colors to indicate the different colors for the heroes that you have selected among the 7 that the game offers for variety. Then the next thing that we do is each player takes 1 free movement token, which is this circular disc in their color, 1 mystic coin, which is a silver coin, and 8 mana cubes, the white mana cubes that you see there. Then you take also 8 action cubes of your player color. These are the orange for the barbarian. You place 5 nearby and 3 on the colored portion of your dashboard. The barbarian has the orange color, so you place 3 orange on those spots. Here also you have the actions that you can select when you take actions with the hero as a reminder. This is the colored space represents the player's reserve over there. Then each player places on the table their initial power card, the one with the red star. So you take this deck and you locate the one with the red, which is your starting power card. This is a brutal attack for the barbarian. You pay X mana and your melee attack gains +1 for every mana spent. The barbarian must take 1 damage using this power. Okay, so this is your starting power and you place it nearby. Of course, during the course of the game you will be able with XP points to unlock additional powerful abilities that will be very useful through the game. Then players spend 3 experiences to increase hero stats on their hero board. I'm going to explain how this is done because this increasing your hero stats is an important section of the game. And you move your markers to the new stat value. So you spend 3 experience to move the respective stats further to the right to indicate that you are better on this specific trait. Last but not least, you choose an adventure for the adventure book. We're going to explain more about the adventures because it's a crucial part of the game. You can have very different play styles depending on the type of the adventure. You can have easy adventures, difficult adventures, adventures that they utilize an inspiration path, adventures with no inspiration path, adventures where you have to go in and kill the bosses, a mixture of those, lots of different things, and this is one of the amazing things of this game, the replayability and the value that it comes from the gameplay. But at this last point, you choose an adventure from the adventure book, you read the adventure story and the adventure specifications, and in most cases the lead player will have to draw a map card from the map deck. You place it face up on the table and you put some room tiles on the table face down as shown on the card as guard posts. Then you place the guard post token over the room tiles to evidence that these are the guard tiles. Players are now ready to begin the game and you're ready to start. Just as a reminder, again, if I would be drawing this map tile, this map card, the only rooms that I would have to draw and place face down would be for those guard spots. So one here, one there, and one there. So I would have, that's why where I place these guard tokens, 1, 2, 3. The only reason I have placed those, this is for a visual aid, so you can ignore them. You don't start with this. Whatever I touch with my pencil. You only start with 1, 2, 3, and you're free to create the inspiration path, which will help you unlock a specific important part of the adventure, like progressing, giving you something useful that you're looking for. The only reason, again, I have placed those, and don't be misguided by the path, is because I'm going to use it to explain later on how the inspiration path works. But that's only in the adventures that they use inspiration path. Some other cards, they don't use a map card, so you don't have any of the setup. You only have your starting tile, and then you start playing depending on what the adventure dictates. So be aware of that. So game phases. The game develops in hours and ends at the end of the 18th hour or when the game end conditions are met. Each hour is played into 5 phases that follow the specific order. First, you have the hour track. You move the hour token on the hour track and apply the period conditions. Second, you have the initiative. You roll for the initiative. Third, you have the actions. This phase lasts several action rounds until the action phase end conditions are met. Each action round, heroes and creatures can do 1 action and any number of free actions. Fourth, you have the new creatures phase. Do encounter checks and place new creatures on the dungeon map. And fifth, you have the hour end phase. Do the game recover procedures. So let's go through those 5 phases so that you can get a better understanding of the different phases of each of those rounds. First phase is the hour track phase. You follow these steps. Excluding the first hour, for all subsequent hours, you move the hour token 1 space to the right. The lead player moves the hour token on the hour track by 1 space from left to right, and if the new space contains this symbol, you discard item cards from the item card display and place 6 new cards drawn from the item deck. Then you refill the item tiles over the card 69 with 1 type of each of the barrier walls, etc. that you have placed during setup. Second, you apply the game period conditions. You verify the current game period color, which could be green, yellow, orange or red. And you apply the conditions to the game. The game track spaces are in 4 colors, as I just mentioned, and the lead player moves the hour token from to the next, and then you apply the conditions on the color that the disc lands on. 2 conditions of the game depend on the current period, and they are the encounter risk, which have this icon, and the trap's maximum difficult value, which have this icon. Encounter risks with the Goblin iconography, this value defines the encounter check characteristics. So 0, 1 and 2. 0, 0, 1 and 2. This icon defines the trap maximum difficulty value. This value shows the number of current maximum value of traps. So 4, 6, 9 and 9. And these of course are also summarized in the rulebook for easy reference. Then the next phase is the initiative phase. Then the lead player rolls the initiative cubes on the table. There is 1 initiative cube for each player, hero color, and 1 creature initiative cube, which is the black, and 1 melee cube, which is the red. Considering the dungeon coordinates, the lead player sorts the cubes by the position from north to south and places them in a line. Each cube on the line represents an initiative segment, and each hero acts at own initiative segment, representing starting from left to right creatures all the way to different heroes and creatures and again heroes. Creatures act at the initiative segment, which is a black cube, and the melee action are done in the initiative segment, which is the red cube. So let's say we roll those initiative cubes one by one, or we can see which one came up on the top. So once this is done, you create a row, placing them from north to south, and the resulting hour in this case would be first the green player, then the creatures, then the blue player, then melee, then the yellow player, and then the orange player. Or if you want to consider that this is the south, and the entrance is always at the south facing the north, then you can place them as such so that you can have an initiative column starting from the top going to the bottom. Then we move to the third phase, which is the action phase. This phase is played in several action rounds until action phase end conditions are met. The action round. Heroes and creatures do 1 exploring action if they are not in melee, or 1 melee action if they are in melee. A hero or creature is in a melee when they are 1 or more opponents in the same room. The exploring actions are done at the hero's creature's initiative segment, while the melee actions are all done at the melee initiative segment, which is the red one. So you can do here, explore action, melee, if there are melee engagements, explore action, creatures segment, and explore action, as long as they are not in melee. If they are engaged in melee, they will do the melee action during the red segment resolution. In some cases, a hero can do 1 explore action and then make 1 melee action in the same round. For example, suppose the initiative order is hero, creature, melee. The hero does an exploring action, then the creature moves into the hero room, and finally both creatures and hero, which are now in melee, do the melee action. So let's see the exploring actions. These actions include movement, activations using powers, using an item, making noise, making a ranged attack, and they are performed in initiative order. If your hero is in a room with opponents, you cannot do any of those. You cannot do any exploring action, but melee actions only. Do an exploring action is not mandatory. You can skip the round if you want. So let's see the hero's exploring actions. In each action round, players can do 1 main action and any number of free actions. Each action can have a cost that must be paid in action and mana cubes from your stock. You place the spent action cubes in the current hero room, where spent mana cubes in the player's reserve. Do actions is not mandatory. You can do nothing in your current round and do something on the following action round. So the main actions are for the heroes. You can move, or to move or charge, the map main action to change room tiles, the search main action to find coins, the find a secret passage to place a big room, the range attack to attack opponents, the activate a room to activate a specific room power, the use power to use a power of a hero, the create a breach to dig a breach in the wall, and the make noise action to make noise in your room, which you'll see why you want to do that. Okay, before moving to the wall system, what about the wall system? The wall system is a special game add-on that includes several plastic pieces. You can buy them as an add-on. Wall system helps players identify the dungeon map rooms and make the game table look great. The wall system set contains 24 walls, 18 open walls, 4 breaches, 4 barriers, and 4 illusionary wall miniatures. How do you use those pieces? Open walls. You place open wall miniatures on the perimeter of the dungeon map, and when a new room is placed, remove the previous open wall miniature inside the map perimeter and add the pieces required to cover the new map border. Walls. You place wall miniature on the walls of the dungeon map, both on the perimeter walls and the internal dungeon map walls, and you remove internal wall miniatures when a big room is placed. You also have illusionary walls, breaches, and barriers to replace the corresponding items of the tile game, and you remove item tiles and place them on the game box. So these are walls, these are open walls, and then you have various breaches, barriers, and illusionary walls, which are the ones on the right. Now, the reason I explain the wall system is because, for obvious reasons, you can see it's gorgeous. That's why I paused to progress the map a bit so that I can insert the wall system and show you how the game would actually look and feel in practice with this fabulous add-on. So let's go and explain now in detail the main actions. First, we have the move charge. You put one action cube in the current room. You can move your hero of one room movement. Spending some XPs in the hero movement stats, you can increase your move charge action by 1 or 2 additional room movements, spending 1 or 2 mana cubes. This is done according to the increase your hero stats section. Each movement must be done to an adjacent and connected room or an unexplored space, for which, if you move into an unexplored space, you will open and add a tile from the ones on the display. So if your hero runs or moves to an unexplored space, you must place a new room tile there. New room tiles must be put in to match the adjacent tiles, walls must be placed next to walls, and doorways must be placed next to doorways. It is possible to break this rule only by simultaneously placing a breach tile on a wall that is adjacent to a doorway. You take the new room tile from the room display or draw it from the room pile. You place the new tile in a correct orientation, and if you take a tile from a room display, it must be compatible with the placement position. Then you draw immediately a new tile from the room pile to replace it, and every time the room pile runs out, you shuffle the discard pile to make a new room pile. If you draw a tile from the room pile, you choose the orientation and place it. If not compatible, you discard it and draw a new tile. You repeat this procedure until you find a compatible tile. If the room pile runs out, you shuffle it and discard to make a new pile to make a new draw pile. If your hero runs or moves into a room occupied by creatures, or creatures move into the hero room, any residual movement expires and your hero is now in melee, engaged. You can do only melee actions from this moment onwards, and you have to act at the melee red cube initiative segment. If your hero runs in a room where are creatures only, this movement is considered a charge and you will gain some bonus in the combat. We'll see how this is explained down the road. Rooms have a maximum capacity of 5 plus the number of players spaces, where this can change based if you're playing a solo, 1, 2, 3 or 4 player game. It's always plus 5 plus the number of players, and this makes the total maximum capacity. Which includes heroes, minions and leaders, which take 1 room space, while bosses, like those big guys over there, they take 2 spaces in this total max capacity. When all spaces are used, a room is full and your hero cannot move in a full room. The dungeon map cannot extend behind the starting room, and any doorway or rooms placed on the starting line pointing to the south are considered closed. So if you had any wall here, it would be considered closed for gameplay purposes, since you cannot go below this starting entrance. What about the map? You place 1 action cube in the room and discard all room tiles on the room display. Then you draw 6 new tiles in order for you to have more options. So if I want to move my action, my hero, I would place one of my movement cubes, my action cubes there, and I will move according to my movement capacity. Of course, I would have some stats here, so I will have some initial movement, I suppose, because I want to have at least one movement, or I can increase it. Maybe I have two. So for each action cube that I place there, I can move up to 2 connected spaces. So for example, I can go 1, 2, or 1, and then stop in melee, because I'm going to be engaged with this enemy. So this is how movement works. If for some reason I choose to go through a doorway, then I will do an exploration, and for this I will pick either from the pile or draw one from the ones there and place a new room at this section. Be aware that when you connect 4 rooms of the same color in a square configuration 2x2, then you have created a big room, and then you will replace the internal walls and place this one in the middle to indicate that this is a big room now. So that shows that you have a big room. But we're going to explain this again later on. So I have already explained the movement action. I'm explaining now the map. As I mentioned before, I place one cube in the location where I am, and I discard the tile display and draw 6 new, so that I can go through easier through the draw pile of the tiles, because I'm looking for something specific, for example, in order to make an influence path with more color rooms matching the color, because I get a bonus if I match the color, or do something specifically. Another option for action is the search action. This action is available only if your hero is in a room with a black symbol. That means library, laboratory, holy pool, weapons room, tomb or clue room. And the room doesn't have any status token on the deactivated phase. You place one action cube in the room and do a treasure check for coins. We'll see how this works. Then you place a status token on the deactivated phase on the room to indicate that. So these are black symbol icons where I can do a treasure check. Another option is to do a ranged attack. Again, you place one action cube in the room where your hero is standing and you make a ranged attack. A hero can make a ranged attack with a ranged weapon or using hero powers. Ranged weapon works rolling cubes on the combat board. We're going to explain how combat works later. We'll see the melee actions and the fight weapon section as well. And for hero powers, we'll have to read the power card description for more information. A direct line of sight is required, and the room line must be uninterrupted by walls and barriers. A single empty space in the room line is not allowed, but if there are 2 or more open spaces, there is no visual. That means that if there is an opening, I can go through a single empty space. For the benefit of this example, you see this is an opening wall, and let's imagine this was an opening wall here as well. So I can go through one empty space and then target over there. But if there are 2, so if this was an opening and I was sitting here and I wanted to target this space, and this was an open door and this was an open door, I cannot go over 2 empty spaces to target further down. I can only go over one empty space and target on the second tile if there is a target there. You can shoot through rooms occupied by heroes and or creatures, but you take a -1 to hit penalty if there are 3 or 5, or a -2 hit penalty if there are 6 or more. You can shoot at any distance, but you take -1 to hit penalty at a distance of 4. So all this decreases your capabilities. And this is how the ranged attack works. Then you can activate a room. This action is available only if your room is of your hero is in a room with a black symbol: library, laboratory, holy pool, weapons room, tomb and clue room. And the room doesn't have a status token on the deactivated phase. You place one action cube, as you do always. This is the main mechanic of the game. When you take actions, you place action cubes on the room that you're located, and this will have an effect later on, as you'll see. So you place one action cube in the room and you activate it for each special ability. You check the room description for the activation effects, and then you place a status token on the deactivated side respectively. So very simply put, if I was here, you have this icon which will let me heal my wounds. So if I'm going to activate this, I'm going to place one of my action cubes there. And once I do that, then I will be able to use the ability of the room, in this case heal myself, and then I will take an status icon and flip it to the deactivated side to show that this has been activated for this round. And of course different rooms do different things, as I have explained at the beginning of this video. Another thing you can do, for example this card, the brutal attack of the barbarian, is you can of course use actions, use your powers. So for example, for this case, you use your powers, you can use your hero powers as main exploring action if they have one or more action cube costs. Like this barbarian asks you to pay X amount of action cubes, and then your melee attack gains +1 for every spent. Actually this, give me a sec, let me see the iconography. Yeah, no, this is the mana. This is the action cube cost with a dark symbol. Maybe this needs to be better explained in the rulebook. So you put one action cube in the room and then you pay mana in order to have the jump ability. Okay, so if some powers demand that you spend action cubes, like the jump action that barbarian had here, and or additional mana cubes, then you have to spend your action in order to activate your power respectively. Another thing you can do is you can create a bridge as an action. You take a bridge tile from the reserve, which is this one. And you place it face down in your room. And then you place one action, this is face down because you're digging thematically, and then you place one action cube on there to indicate that you're digging for a bridge. Okay, so let's say I wanted to make a bridge on this starting tile. In order to go there, of course, it doesn't make sense because I can go around and go through this opening, but imagine this was my only viable exit and I wanted to definitely go there and I didn't have any rooms to connect because it was a dead end, a wall, and then I need to create, let's say, a bridge. So I place one action cube on top of the tile, and then when there are 4 cubes, because that definitely shows a progression, because I'm digging, so I'm spending action cubes in order to dig. Of course I'm making noise, as you would imagine. But once it has 4 action cubes there, that means that the owner gets to flip the bridge, and you have created a hole, because then you create a bridge there. And then also, if you have the wall system, you can replace this open wall with a bridge, because it shows you a bridge, for example, which is really, really nice. But this is a very interesting way, because it doesn't mean that you have to finish your, let's say, plans. If there is no other way to go this direction, you can always take the bridge action and dig a wall in the hole. Okay, but be careful, because this takes a lot of actions and it creates noise as well. Another possible action that you can do is to intentionally make noise. Then you just simply drop one cube where you are. You're just banging with your weapons on the floor or something, creating noise. This may have tactical reasons for you that you're doing it, because it's not a very, very normal thing to do, but you may need to do it in order to create noise, and this is actually helpful in order to attract creatures possibly away from other wounded heroes, or making emptying a free space, because they're going to get them there, and then another hero can run from the evacuated, let's say, space. So this is really, really useful on specific options, but it has to be used with caution when it makes sense. Otherwise, generally making noise is not a good thing. Then you have the free actions. In addition to the main action, you can do any number of free actions, and free actions can be done before or after your main action, and those include free movement. You spend your free movement token, which is this circular disc here, and each player starts with one, in order to gain 1 free movement. You can do a use an item free action, where you use an item card or an item tile. You can do a free buy items action, where you buy item cards or an item tile. You can do a free action exchange, where you exchange item cards and adventure tiles. You can do a free action interact, where you interact, take, use an adventure element, for example, pull a level, or open a door, or evoke something. And then you can also have another free action, which is use powers. You use a power with mana cost only, like this one, the brutal attack. That doesn't cost action cubes. It's a free action as long as you have mana to spend in order to use it. Then you can also use XP tokens. You spend XP to increase your hero stats and be better and more efficient, but this is also a free action and you can do it as long as you have and are willing to spend XP tokens. So free movement, you can spend a free movement token and immediately do one room movement. This movement can be performed before or after any other action and can be additional to the hero movement, move, charge action, and you place the free movement token in the room, you will recover it at the hour end. So you place it in the room next to the hero and that gives you a free additional movement. Then you have use an item card or item tile. So for example, if I had this potion, I would be able to use it to recover 2 mana from the reserve, and then I would have to discard it. This is what this card means, and this is a cost, 3 mystic coin to buy it. Of course, you place discarded item cards in the item discard pile, and there are many different item cards. You can read the text for the abilities. Players can gain items from the treasures and buy them from the item card display. Heroes not involved in the combat can play item cards in the room as a free action, and they're immediately effective. The item tiles are of 3 types. You can play barriers, breaches, and illusionary walls, and players can buy them also from card 69 if they're available. Then just to explain, we have the barriers, which is this icon here. These are the barriers, and I think you can use also wall systems to indicate those very nicely. So you place one barrier across a doorway of the room where the hero is standing. Depending on the purchase tile, the barrier can have a value of 1 or a value of 2. This action doesn't have any cube cost, and creatures cannot move through a barrier tile, any value, and a hero cannot move through a more barrier tile, any value, but may remove it from the doorway in front of him as a free action by spending 1 mana cube for value 1 and 2 mana cubes for value 2. You return the barrier to the game reserve, and this action is an exploration action. You cannot place a barrier tile on a wall or illusionary wall. At the end of the hour, if there are creatures in the room adjacent to the barrier, remove the barrier tile, value 1, or flip the value 2 to value 1, so they just try to break it. This is what it means. So it's a delay mechanism. If you place a barrier over breach, when you remove the barrier, you keep the breach tile. Speaking of breaches, you have the breach tile that you see. You can also do it as a main action to try to dig a breach. You place one breach tile in a wall of the room where the hero is standing. The tile placement doesn't have any cube cost. A breach creature creates a doorway between the adjacent rooms, and it can be used to connect existing rooms or add a doorway in a room you're placing. A breach cannot be removed. It is not possible to place a breach over an illusionary wall tile, and players gain a breach tile, also completing the action create a breach. You also have the illusionary wall, where you place an illusionary wall tile across a doorway of the room where the hero is standing, and the tile placement doesn't have any cube cost. The illusionary wall stops the line of vision. It's like a fake wall or a vision. In addition, it reduces the noise, allowing the players to ignore the action cubes between the illusionary wall and the heroes when determining the creature what they hear, and we'll see this how it works later on. Another free action is you can buy items from the display. Players not involved in the combat can buy an item from the item card display. So in order to buy cards, you pay the amount of necessary mystic coins indicated on the top left corner of the card. You return those to the reserve, and you take the card. If one or more players want to buy the same card, the player with the highest best initiative order will take it. Of course, this is a co-op game, so it's best to organize it between the players. Players can buy an item tile of their choice by paying 1 coin from the available card 69, and this costs 1 mystic coin as indicated on this card 69, which doesn't go out of the display. In case of a barrier, if you buy a level 1 barrier, it costs 1 coin. If you buy a level 2 barrier, it costs 2 coins respectively. And you have to place it with the correct side. Another free action is exchange. Heroes not involved in the combat in the same room may exchange their item cards on our adventure tiles used only in specific adventures without any cube cost. It's not possible to exchange mystic coins. Everyone has their own reserve and stash. Free action is interact also. A hero not involved in combat can interact with some adventure elements. For example, a hero can take the artifact tile or collect a magic shard with an interact action. If more heroes than one wants to take the same element, they go by initiative order as well. Free action to use powers. You can use your powers of your hero, which don't have any action cube cost, as a free action. You can use your XP tokens. You can use your XP tokens in order to improve your stats and powers. That doesn't cost action cubes, it just costs you spending experience points. And this includes all the selection of free actions. Now let's see the creatures exploration action. Each action around creatures not in melee moving, they move by spending one movement token. Movement tokens, which are the black cubes, are added to the room together with the creatures and used to register their movements. Keep in mind that these cubes are different from the initiative cube. This is just to activate that this is time for the segment for creatures exploring action. But we have black cubes, maybe you don't see them over there, where they are used to indicate the movement. So again, as I mentioned, movement tokens, the black cubes are added in the room together with the creatures and are used to register their movement capacity. They are refilled at the hour end. And the rules that are followed in this section are the following. The lead player removes one movement token from the creature room and moves all the creatures there up to 2 movements, or 1 room movement if the creature pack is wandering. Any residual movement tokens follows with creatures in the creature destination room, and the creatures in the same room represent a creature pack and move all together. If they are of different types, consider the movement of the fastest creature in the group, which affects the whole group itself. If there is more than one creature pack in the dungeon map, the lead player chooses the order in which the creature packs move. Spectres have a +1 bonus of movement. If a pack contains at least one spectre, the pack will move 1 additional room movement. Note that with 2 or more spectres, the movement bonus is always +1, so it's not accumulative. So in this case, I have the movement cubes for the enemies. I would select if I move this group or this group first. I would remove 1 movement cube, and then I will move this pack 1, 2. I move them either 1 if they're wandering or 2. Okay, and then the remaining movement cubes follow with them. And this group, I remove 1. Normally they would move only 1, 2 also, so 1, 2, but since they have a Spectre with them which gives them +1 bonus, they reach all the way to my destination because they get +1 movement from the Spectre. And of course they take the remaining movement cubes with them. Okay, let's put them there. You have to respect the capacity, as I mentioned at the beginning of the game, and then we have a massacre in this example. But you see, this is how movement works. If creatures enter a +1 or +2 room, they immediately gain respectively +1 room movement or +2 room movements as well. If creatures reach a hero, they stop and they are now in melee. They will fight at the melee initiative segment, which is the red cube, if this hasn't reached yet, or will follow the next round respectively. Now, in order to determine how the creatures move and where, you use the detection rules described in the rulebook. You have to verify the detection rules after every single room movement. First, they see you. Creatures move towards a hero if they have direct line of sight. To see a hero, creature must have a direct line of sight, and this line must be uninterrupted by walls, illusionary walls, or full rooms. One single empty space of line of sight is allowed, while 2+ empty spaces, as I showed you before, they stop the visual. If more than one hero is visible, creatures move towards the nearest hero. In case of a tie, the lead player chooses which direction they follow. If the barrier stops the creatures, they stay there waiting for the barrier's removal. If it is a +1, they will remove it at the end. If it's a +2, they will flip it to the +1 from the +2. Second, priority is if they hear you. If no heroes are in the creature's visual and there are no action cubes within 4 or 6 rooms, because as you imagine, action cubes, because you place them while you create actions, they create noise, so they move towards these action cubes as a they're attracted by the noise essentially. So if there are no action cubes in the distance of 4 or 6 rooms, they move towards the nearest cube. You measure the distance by connected rooms and or empty spaces, and the maximum distance depends on the creature perception value, which is 4 rooms with distance for minions, perception of 4, 5 rooms for leaders, perception of 5, or 6 rooms for bosses, perception of 6. If different creatures are in the same room, consider the best perception value for the group. In the rare case that the creatures read a richer cube and still no heroes are in the visual, and there is another cube in the direction of the hero, they move in this direction. If there is a illusionary wall tile between creatures and action cubes, ignore up to the number of player cubes. If there are more cubes than the players, remove the illusionary wall. If a barrier stops the creature's movement, they stay there waiting for the barrier removal. In case of a tie, the distance of the cube creatures move towards the room with the most cubes. In case of a further tie, the lead player chooses. The third priority is if neither 1 or 2 is possible, so neither they see you nor they hear you, the creature is considered to be wandering, and they move 1 room towards the nearest hero. You measure the distance by connected rooms and or empty spaces, no matter the distance. In case of a tie, the lead player chooses. You do not consider the Spectre movement bonus to wandering creatures, but apply the room movement bonus +1 or +2 if they reach such a room respectively. If a barrier stops wandering creatures, they remain there waiting for the barrier's removal. There could be some special situations. If a creature pack moves and reaches another creature pack, the two groups join and share their movement tokens. If the moving group still has to complete their movement, the entire new group will move again. So you don't want to have merge of creature packs because it's not good. They can keep going and going and going. A creature pack must move in a direction, but there is an empty space map, or a creature map pack must be placed in an empty map space encounter. You take a room tile from the room display or draw from the room pile and put it there. So they explore also in this way if they have to move towards this direction. The tile must be compatible with the position. If you drew from the pile not compatible tile, you discard it until you find a compatible one. Compatible means that the new room tile fits all the spaces, walls and openings, considering the adjacent tiles, and you place a tile to allow the creatures to reach their destination by covering the minimum distance possible. The target is determined as usual by the detection rules. Again, if they're moving in a full room, if a creature pack moves in an occupied room, the lead player fits the room up to the capacity, placing coming bosses first, then of course leaders, and then the minions. So the stronger miniatures go first because they're going to make more damage. And then this is how the exploration action of the creatures works. Now let's move to the melee actions. Melee actions. A hero in melee is considered to be in melee when they are in the same room with one or more opponents. So in this scenario, this hero is in melee with this skeleton respectively. Melee actions are done during the melee initiative segment, so they are resolved when this segment reaches their turn. So first, then third, then fourth. Heroes in melee can do one melee, so all melee actions, so when the red segment reaches, all heroes which are engaged in melee, so in this case, let's say it was this and that hero, those two will be engaged in melee, okay? Those will be moving on the different segments respectively. But the red locks and fixes those groups for melee. So heroes in melee can do one melee action and any number of reactions. All heroes and creatures' melee actions are simultaneous, and all effects must always be considered, including if who is doing them goes killed. So the steps followed for each action of the fighting is heroes deploying, hero melee action, and then creatures melee action, and this can be repeated. So heroes deploying. Your hero can try to defend a limited number of attacks. The engages slot of the hero defines how many. So this is important to identify how many heroes you can engage. So heroes, as I said, have 1 to 3 engagement slots. Barbarian has 3. The thief, for example, has 2 engagement slots. As you can see here, Barbarian has again 3. He's more capable in engaging enemy. So the number of slots is shown over that specific symbol I just showed you on the hero board. Spending some experience in the defensive safe throwing rolling stat, it's possible to gain 1 additional engagement slot. So if this cube reaches over there, you gain +1 engagement slot. So the barbarian here will have 3 +1 that goes to 4. Minions have 1 attack, leaders have 2 attacks, bosses have a variable number of attacks, so you have to make sure that you assign them correctly. If the creature attacks are less or equal to the engagement slot of the heroes can try to stop all their attacks. If the creature attacks are more than the hero's engaged slots, the hero will automatically take damage from the undefended attacks. If there is more than 1 hero in the room, each player in initiative order declares how many they deploy in their slots versus the opponent's attacks. Players can do this step as they prefer, assigning all their slots or only some, and players can freely discuss to find the agreement on how best to deploy the heroes, but it's not mandatory. If there are creature attacks still to be assigned and some hero has free engaged slot, the attacks are assigned to the available slots following the hero initiative order to fill up all the slots of each hero engaged in the melee, starting with the creatures with the most HPs, and then that means bosses, leaders, and elite minions, and if they are undefended attacks, they are assigned the same way, giving the initiative order 1 attack to each hero. If there are more than a hero and creature attacks are less than the hero's engagement slots, creature attacks could spare a hero. If that happens, the hero is covered. In other cases, the hero is engaged. And that has to do with keywords that may affect different things in the game. So this is the first step, heroes deploying and engaging enemies according to their engagement slots. So, hero melee actions. Every action round, heroes can do one main melee action and any number of free melee actions, and both work simultaneously with the opponent actions. If there is more than 1 hero in the same melee combat, players can choose the order to act. If there is no agreement between players, the initiative order breaks the tie. Heroes act simultaneously. Players can wait their turn to choose what to do. Main actions: fight with weapons, melee or ranged, fight with powers, flee, or do nothing. So, fight with weapons, melee or ranged. To fight with weapons, you have to pay 1 action cube and place it in the room. So you take 1 action cube, one of those, and you place it in the room for which you are fighting in melee. Then, the next thing that happens is, that's a blade cost in theory, to use the combat. A hero can then attack 1 opponent. Your hero can always fight with weapons. Specific item cards are not required. For example, you don't need a bow item card to be able to make a ranged attack. Item cards are magical items that make your attack stronger. So if you're engaged in melee, you have to attack an opponent engaging you. If you're covered, you can attack any opponent in melee or with ranged weapons. Each hero knows a single weapon style, either ranged or melee. And this is shown over here because it has either the melee weapon or the ranged weapon. This is their expertise, let's say. Your hero must know the weapon style used, or you will take the penalty on cube recovering if you don't know the weapon that you're using. So how to attack with weapons and how rolling happens. Players roll, throw, place, down and flick or push mana cubes on their combat board, trying to have them placed in a specific colored area, which is seen over here. So you can either throw or push or flick, but you have to respect some rules. Actually, the preferred one is flicking, as I have just showed you. You can roll cubes in different ways, but most people will find flicking is the most convenient, and actually they can become really good at it. There is only one rule. If your rolling movement, your fingers cannot surpass the red dotted line. So you need to be below this red dotted line when you do your flicking or throwing or whatever. So when you end rolling, you declare it and you follow the procedures in the order to resolve what you have achieved. Keep in mind that there are 5 colors. Let's examine the board, the combat board. There are 5 colored areas. From the top to the bottom, you have the black area on the top, which is this one. And this is a critical hit, which inflicts 5 damage, as you can see on the right. Then you have the red area, which is also very good and inflicts 3 damage points. Then you have the orange, which is easier to hit because it's wider and it only inflicts 1 damage point. And then you have the yellow, which provides you 1 dodge point, so 1 shield, or the dark yellow, which provides the green actually, which provides 2 dodge points. And then you have the fumble, which makes you lose -2 damage points, and you don't want to fumble. So dodge point, hits and damage, and this is a fumble. Again, when you ended rolling, depending on the weapons that you used, etc., and how these are, let's say they have ended like that. They may be touching two areas, like this one. So let's say for the benefit of this example, we have this plus that plus this. This is a clear critical hit. So the sequence you follow is the following. You check if more than one cube touches the black area. If that happens, you remove all cubes touching it and put it into your reserve. After completing step 1, you go to step 2 and you check if more than one cube touches the red area. If that happens, you remove all cubes touching it and then you put it in the reserve. So you don't want to have more than one touching the red or the blue, the red or the black area. But keep in mind that if a cube touches both, then you can decide which one you're going to push them. So you can, you don't want to end up with 2 in the red or more than 2 in the red or more than 2 in the black. Then, after completing step 1 and 2, you apply any hit modifications, if any, and then you move any cubes that touch 2 areas to the area you prefer, but you cannot move cubes that touch the purple area. So let's say I had more, and maybe I had 2 and 2, okay? If that happens, then I remove, this is step 1 and step 2. So I don't want to have more than one touching the black, because this will make it, of course, make me remove all cubes. So let's say in this example, Michel rolled 5 cubes, as you can see. He checks if 2 or more cubes touch the black area. It is so, A, which is this one, in the example given, it's in the black area. So he removes them and places them into the reserve. So this goes out. Then he checks if 2 or more cubes touch the red area. No, there is only 1. And then he applies any hit modifications. There are no hit modifications to apply. If he had shields or swords, we're going to see what that means later on. And then he moves the touching red-orange area in the red area. So this goes here in the orange area, and this goes here to create one dodge point. And of course, he will have one critical here. So this is an example of let's say rolling and then going through the order of finalizing your result. So it's also summarized here. If 2 or more cubes in the black area, move them to the reserve. If 2 or more are in the red, move them to the reserve. Apply to hit modifications, if any. If a cube touches 2 areas, move it as you prefer. If a cube goes in the off-board or drops in the white area, move it to the reserve. So you lose those cubes essentially, so you need to make efficient flickering or dropping according to the rules. The to hit modifications that I mentioned, hero and creatures can have bonus penalties to hit. They are shown with +1, +2 or +3 to hit when they are bonus, and -1, -2, -3 to hit when they are penalties. +1 to hit means that you have to move one cube to an upper area from yellow to orange, so that will be a hit modification. In the same way, +2 means to move them 2 cubes or 1 cube 2 times. A -1 means to move your best result and place it, remove your best result and place it to your reserve. A -2 hit means you have to remove 2 best results, respectively. Hero can use stat meeples, swords and shields. A player can spend the white sword meeple to move 1 cube meeple from a yellow area and 1 dodge point to the orange area, 1 damage point, or from the orange area to the red area, 3 damage point. And a player can spend white shields meeples to move 1 cube from the orange area to the yellow area, or from the yellow area to the dodge to the dark yellow area, dodge value 2, and you place used meeples on the player reserve. Spending the colored meeples, you can double the red and orange results, sword, or the yellow and dark yellow resort, shield. In this case, the meeple and all cubes affected must be placed in the player reserve. And players gain meeples, increasing their stats, spending their XPs, and increasing the hero stats. So you see, you can get swords or shields by getting more stats. Damage points and dodge points. After rolling, the players have to calculate the number of damage points and the number of dodge points acquired. First, for the damage points. First, you verify your fumble results, which are the ones if you have cubes on the purple range over here, and apply a -2 damage points to your final result. Each of those for each cube over there. If the total is positive, the hero inflicts many damage points equal to this value by summing the total number and applying it to the target. Now, 1 damage point is applied to the hero no matter what the negative value, if the total is negative. For example, if you have too many fumble cubes, so a negative result, you will have 1 damage inflicted to the hero no matter how much negative you go, -4 or -6 or whatever. So this is important because of course you want to get damage inflicted to your opponent and not fumbles. But also it could be that if the damage points done are equal or higher than the opponent HP value, the health points, the opponent dies, which is the result that you want essentially. At action round end, all wounded creatures return to their starting HP value unless heroes use the power to inflict permanent wounds, so you have to try to make the best to take them out right away, otherwise they will recover. Dodge points. You verify the number of dodge points acquired, then they apply any hero bonus or penalty to this number, if any, and the resulting value cannot be negative, considering as 0 any negative value. Then you determine the following creature attack result and you see how many you can dodge. Cube recovering. If the hero uses a known weapon style, for example a monk is fighting with a melee, all rolled cubes still on the board, all those here, return to the reserve of the player. If the hero uses an unknown weapon, for example a cleric is making a ranged attack, and again, this is what each hero knows over there. So if that happens, you're using an unknown weapon style, what happens is all cubes still on the board go to the player reserve instead to the player stock, because if you know the weapon, it goes back to your player stock. If not, it goes to the player reserve. The second option, because so far we've seen the first option, the second option, so far we've seen fight with weapons, the second option is to fight with powers. You can use a power of your hero from your power deck, as long as you have it unlocked, which has 1 or more action cubes as a cost. Used action cubes must be placed in the room, otherwise without action cube cost, the use of the power is free, using mana usually. You have to know that by doing this action, your hero will suffer the opponent attack if their status is engaged and if the power activation doesn't protect them, because you will not create any dodge points in theory. The third option is to flee. To flee a melee, you have to place 1 action cube in the room where you are located. So you take 1 cube and you place it there, where your hero is standing, and then roll. After the rolling procedure, ignore any damage points caused by, but only verify if you can dodge the opponent attack by creating a sufficient amount of dodge points. If your hero survives, you can move immediately to the adjacent connected room. You cannot move to an empty space, but only in a room tile already on the table. And the fourth option is to do nothing. You do nothing, you will be able to do something on the following action round. What are the melee free actions? You can have, in addition to the main action, you can also do a number of free actions. Free actions can be done before or after your main melee action. You can use powers without action cube, using mana, or you can use an item. Depending on the card text, you will follow the card respective text. What happens when a hero has no action cubes? If they're all used. If you are engaged in melee and you have no action or mana cubes available, you must lose X number of HP, health points, and recover 2x cubes from your reserve. So you're wasting your health to recover 2 times so for example, you lose 2 to recover 2 times 2, 4 action cubes from the reserve. Of course, this is not something that you want, and this penalty is mandatory. You cannot choose, you can choose the amount you lose, but if the hero reaches 0 health point, then your hero dies. Show the creature current HPs. When heroes are fighting strong creatures, elite leader bosses, players can use the creature health point track on our board to show the current creature HP. You use 2 cube markers from the game to reserve to track the maximum and the current creature HP, respectively. But creatures also have melee actions. Creatures in melee have only one action available, attack. You have to verify each attack on every creature involved in the melee. If the creature attack is undefended, automatically apply damage to the target hero. The number of damage points caused by the creature attack depends on the creature type. For example, skeletons, specters, goblins, leaders attack may do 1 damage point, spiders attacks may do 2 damage points, and bosses do a variable number of damage points. And the same goes for leaders, which they do 1 damage point. If the creature attack is defended by the engaged hero, verify if the hero can dodge the attack by spending the dodge points gained in the rolling. The number of dodge points required to dodge the creature attack is the dodging value of the creature and depends on the creature type. For example, if it is 1 for specters, skeletons and spiders, 2 for goblins and leaders, while bosses have a variable number of dodge points. Let's see a boss card so that you can see. This is the value, the shield with the asterisk, which is 3. This is the dodge value for this death dog boss, for example. If the hero is charging and the engaged creature attack is from a minion, Spectre, Goblin, Skeleton or Spider, normal or elite, the creature attack does not apply. The charge effect applies for 1 action round only. So, the melee procedure summary is the following. First, you deploy heroes versus creatures. Then, for every hero, the player declares a target, rolls, determines the number of dodge points and acquired damage points done. Then, for every creature, minions, if the hero is charging, confront the dodge points gained by the hero, if they're rolling with the dodging value of the creature attack, and then they follow with the resolution. The last thing you do is you apply the damage points done by the hero to the creature, and finally you apply the effects. If the hero health points drops to 0 or less, the hero dies. If the creature takes number of damage points equal or higher to the hit points that they have, the health points, the creature dies. All wounded creatures return to their starting health point values unless hero uses permanent ability to inflict permanent wounds. And the new action round starts, again following the initiative order. Creatures and heroes not in melee do the exploring actions, while heroes, creatures in melee continue to be engaged and do the melee action as indicated by the initiative respectively. What about a killed hero? When they reach 0 health points or less, the hero dies. If the hero dies, the game period is in green or yellow, then and at least another hero is alive in the game, the hero respawns at the following hour start. You place the hero miniature in the same room with another hero not involved in a fight of your choice. If all heroes are in melee, wait for the next hour until a hero goes out of melee. Respawning hero loses mystic coins, item cards and XPs, and they deactivate all power cards and hero stats. You start with a full HP, 3 XPs and 0 mystic coins as in the setup. If killed hero was carrying an adventure tile, place it in the room where they died, they drop it, while any other carried elements disappear, coins, items, etc. In a PvP game, back to life rule is not applied, and if a hero dies definitely, you update the number of players value to the current number of players for effects that they are affected by the number of players in play. But let's hope we don't die so soon. Kill creatures. When a creature takes a number of damage points equal to or higher than their HP, the creature dies. You return kill creatures to the game reserve. Depending on the creature type, you do an appropriate number of treasure checks, leaders and bosses, and assign to heroes, and you gain experience points. What about treasures? Let's talk about treasures. Heroes can gain treasures by killing leaders and bosses or doing the search action. In this case, players can do one or more treasure checks. Treasure checks. The treasure check is made in two parts. The first procedure, coins procedure, allows to find coins, XP and magic shards, while the second procedure, items procedure, allows you to gain items. Killing creatures, leaders or bosses allows you both procedures, coins and items, and only heroes who were in the room where the combat took place or caused the damage points to the opponent are considered involved in the fight and can take the treasure. The search action allows doing coins procedure only, and only the heroes in the room where the search takes place can take the treasure. The coins procedure is very simple. The lead player discards the first card of the item deck. So you discard this card. Then you draw 3 card items and verifies the back side, counting coins, XP and magic shard symbols found. So you can have coins, shards, or experience icons found at the back of the card. The experience icon, which is a star, each hero immediately gains a number of experience points equal to the number of XP symbols, no matter if they were involved in the fight or not, if they are not in the room or if they are not in the room of the search action. The coin symbol, like the one I've showed you here, could be a variable number, 1, 2 or whatever. Each hero involved in the fight or all of the heroes which are in the room of the search action gains a number of mystic coins equal to the number of coin symbols found there, plus 2, so 1 plus 2, 3 for this card, or if the card showed number 2, 2 plus 2, 4. And the last one, it's the icon of the shard. Maybe I have it here to show you. Okay, we don't need to go through the deck. So if you see the icon of the shard on top of one item card on this item deck, that means that you place one magic shard tile on the room color in the current room, and the player can take it with the interact action. If 2 or more players want to take this, they follow the initiative order. Mystic coins. These magic coins are permanently assigned to those who take them. Heroes cannot share them, as I said before. You can use mystic coins to buy items from the Great Merchant, a powerful ghost that wanders the dungeon looking for these coins. The items you can buy from him are placed above the art track during setup. In this case, we have them there. You can also have magic shards. These magic fragments are permanently assigned to those who take them. Heroes cannot share them, and the Temple of Horrors is cursed. Any hero without a magic shard die when they exit the dungeon map. So they have to find a magic shard before exiting the dungeon, or otherwise they will die. Magic shards can be found in treasure, tomb rooms, and from a library activation icon. Depending on the adventure selected, heroes can require 1 or more magic shards or special combination of shard colors in order to be able to safely escape. The items procedure. After the coins procedure, check the front side of the same card and discard some cards. Loot from a leader. You discard all cards with a cost of 6 plus coins. Loot from the boss. Discard all cards with a cost of 8 plus coins. From a green, 10 from yellow, 12 from an orange and 14 from a red boss. You place discarded cards in the discard pile, and each hero involved in the fight can gain 1 item. In initiative order, players check their cards and take 1 card as a loot from the items procedure. When all players have done the procedure, discard the remaining cards, and taking the card, of course, is not mandatory. Just to show you the format of the card, you can see that it has the cost on the top left section, the graph. It has the item description here. This is a ranged, a yank attack. Your attack does +2 damage points, ranged. And of course, this icon can have either the tapping, so you rotate it 90 degrees after use and you can put it again at the end of our straight up so you can use it. Or it can have the permanently discard card. Once you drink this potion, you have to discard it, for example. Last thing that I want to mention are the experience points, XP. Heroes gain experience killing creatures from treasure checks, but also from side quests, like the ones depicted here on the top of this section for each box. You take the corresponding value in XP tokens from the game reserve and assign it to 1 player. The yellow XP tokens value is 3, while the white XP tokens, the value is 1. yellow and green respectively. By killing creatures, heroes gain 1 XP killing all minions of type Goblin, Spectre, Skeletons or Spiders inside the room, no matter if they were involved in the fight or not. They gain 1 experience killing a leader and a variable number of XP killing a boss, which is indicated on the boss card respectively. For example, killing again this boss will give me 2 experience. The star is the icon for the experience. By treasure checks, each star symbol found on the treasure card for coins provides you 1 XP to all heroes, whether they're joining the loot or not. And by side quests. Side quests are shown on the bottom of our track board, and they're divided in 4 groups. Every time hero accomplishes 1 side quest, place 1 of their quest cubes as a reminder on the corresponding space. And for each group completed, side quests can provide XP as shown on the key of the board. So, for example, clue room activation, I can put a side quest here, and when I also have another side quest, successful trap, successful TS done, or activation and boss killing. So when I have 2, I gain 1 experience, 3, 1 experience, and for the 4th, I gain 3 experience. Side quest requirements are shown at the board. 3, 3, 6, 4, and 9, 5, and 12, 6 numbers on the exploration group refer to the length of the width of the dungeon map. In those boxes here, you cannot read it now, but this is how they look. So these numbers refer to the exploration of the dungeon. And you can also have a killing of different type of enemies, library activation, holy pool activation, etc. So how do you use experience? You can activate new hero cards by unlocking them from your deck, your power deck. And you can activate new cards only if you have experience available to spend and your hero is not in melee. Or you can increase your hero stats, so you are better. So you can improve your movement, you can improve your HP stat, you can improve your action stat, so you unlock more cubes for action cubes. You can improve your mana stat, where you unlock more mana cubes. You can improve your defensive save throwing roll stat, that's here. Or you can even improve additionally your offensive rolling stat, which is this one with the damage icon. And if your marker reaches, of course, a symbol, you unlock swords or shields, etc., and you get additional benefits on the stats, but also additional tokens for you to use. Here, for example, I remind you that when your cube reaches here, you gain 1 additional engagement slot unlocked. So the barbarian has 3 plus 1, 4 in this scenario. What about the creature stats? In order of power of the game, creatures are minions, minions elite, leaders and bosses. So minions have 2 movement points, dodging value is 1, attack is 1, perception is 4 rooms. The size is 1, hit points are health 4 hearts, and damage point cost is 1 damage. Each type of creature has a specific bonus. Skeleton has 5, Spectre also have 1 more movement as we have seen, Goblin have 2 dodging values instead of 1, and Spider does 2 damage instead of 1. You also have the elite minions. Elite minions represent a powerful variant of the minion with these stats: 4 hearts plus 2 times the number of players, 1 attack, 2 dodging value, 2 damage points cost, and 5 perception. So they are more powerful, but also they have additional abilities. Elite skeletons, when destroyed, will merge into a normal skeleton, if any, transforming it into a skeleton elite. Goblin Mage, at round start it causes 1 damage point to all heroes in the room, or if no any to all heroes in a room in its line of sight. This power is also additional to the Goblin attack. You have the Elite Spider. At round start it produces web, and all engaged heroes must do a TS versus 4 or pay 1 additional mana cube of blade cost. And Elite Spectre, at round start, each engaged hero must do a TS versus 4 or flee away. Killing all the minion creatures, standard or elite, of a type inside the room provides 1 XP. Then you have the leaders, which are those 4 here. They have 2 movement points, a dodging value of 3, attacks 2, perception up to 5, room size 1, hit points 4 plus 3 times the number of HPs of the players, and damage point cost is 2 damage. Each leader has a specific bonus: Elemental, Lich, Spider Princess, Mummy, and they're all described in the rulebook. For example, the Mummy, at round start each hero in the Mummy room loses 1 action cube, and you move it from their stock and place it to their reserve. Killing a leader allows 1 treasure check and provides 1 XP. Leader stats can be modified in specific adventures respectively. And of course, bosses have a specific amount of stats that they are depicted on the card itself. So you can see the boss name, this is a death dog. You can see the boss powers description, which is here. With attack, if hit, the hero must do an S4 or be cursed -1 to hit until the game period end. You also have here the stats, HPs, number of attacks, DV, damage done, etc. And you have also the boss period, this is green. You have green, yellow, orange and red, I remind you, according to our track board. And then you have the boss XP value if defeated and the treasure value provided. And there's a variety of bosses depending on the cards. So, the action round end. After all initiative segments have been carried out in order, then the action round ends. And if the action phase end condition is not triggered, a new round starts. All wounded creatures bring back to full HP to the starting value unless heroes use the power to make the permanent wounds. The action phase end. If they are not melee in progress, when all heroes and creatures run out of action cubes, die, and or when all the creatures choose to pass, the action phase ends. Then we move to the 4th phase, which is the new creatures phase. At the start of this phase, we do an encounter check. Encounter check. You verify which is the hero who placed the most cubes on the map. The location to this hero is the position 0, that the number of cubes is the cube value. The cube value cannot be lower than 1. If 2 or more heroes have the same number of cubes, the leader player decides which one. Adventures or powers can allow players to drop white cubes on the dungeon map if the number is the highest. Consider position 0 where they are placed. Then we follow the procedure for the encounter check. We discard the first card from the card item deck. So we discard the first card. And then we draw X cards, where X is the number of cubes value plus the encounter risk value stated on the top of the period. For green 0, for yellow 0, for orange 1, and for dark, it's out of the picture, but it's 2, as you see here. Then we check the back of the drawn cards, and if there is a creature symbol on the back of those drawn cards, like this one, there is an encounter. If you're in the green or yellow period, consider only the first encounter and discard the other cards. For the orange period, consider also the second encounter, if any, and for the red period, consider also the third encounter, if any. If you don't have any encounter, nothing happens. If you have 1 or more encounters, some creatures will be added to the dungeon map, and you continue this procedure with there is an encounter where place it section. What about position coordinates? This value determines where the encounter will appear respecting to the position 0. So you see, we fix the position 0, and then we say north 3 spaces from the position 0. And then you define the position coordinates like that. The creature symbol, when the symbol appears in the encounter check, the encounter is positive and new creatures will be placed. So there's an encounter. Where to place it? For each positive result, you evaluate the position coordinates shown on the card. Consider the letter east, E for east, W for west, N for north, and S for south, meaning respectively what I just mentioned. And then you can imagine from the position 0 up to 3 north, or for example 2 east if you drew this card respectively. You verify the target space. If there is no room tile in the space, you select and take a room tile from the room display, or draw a new tile from the room pile. The room tile must be compatible, of course, and then you place the creature there. covering any minor distance as possible. The target of the creature is determined as usual by detection rules, and if the room tile is not compatible, you cannot use it. If you draw it, discard it and take a new one until you find a compatible one. The lead player chooses the nearest if there is equivalent distance. If the selected space is out of the table, you set opposite direction. For example, N3 becomes S3 instead of, so you don't go beyond the limits. There is an encounter. Which creatures? The room color defines the creature's type. Spectre, Spider, Skeleton, Goblins respectively for a yellow, green, red and blue room. So, I just said that if it is, for example, a Spectre, that means that it will be a yellow room. So the color of the borders dictate which type of minion will spawn. How many creatures? For each encounter you have to place check how many miniatures of the same encounter type, Goblin, Skeleton, Spectre, Spiders, are on the hour track, considering also the one you just placed now. 0, 1, the number of creatures to place is equal to the number of players. 2, the number of creatures to place is equal to the number of players plus 1 elite minion creature of the same type. 3, the number of creatures to place is equal to the number of players plus a leader. And 4, the number of creatures to place is equal to the number of players plus a boss. 5 plus the number, then the selected creatures are no more available to the dungeon map, and an encounter of that type doesn't produce any effect. Then you add to the room 2 creature movement tokens, or 3 if it is a boss. Are the miniatures available? Considering the miniature of the table and the hour track, if you must place a miniature and it's not available, from the game reserve you have to place one leader instead. If you have to place a leader miniature and it's not available, you have to place a boss instead. And if you have to place a boss miniature and it's not available, you have to place any other miniature token to represent it. There is also some encounter check for dangerous rooms, but let's go now to the 5th and final phase of the game, which is the hour end phase. So the hour end phase, you perform the steps as I said in the following order. You return all action cubes on the map to the respective players' reserves. All players recover up to 3 elements of their color, cubes and or meeples, moving them from the reserve to their stock. In this step it's possible to move 2 white elements, cubes and or meeples instead of 1 colored element. Third, all players recover put straight all their rotated cards in face vertical orientation, so they are becoming available. Step 4, for every barrier tile on the map, if there are creatures on the adjacent room, remove 1 barrier level, so from level 2, level 1 or level 1 flip to remove it completely. You remove any illusionary wall tiles, and step 5, each creature pack must have 2 movement tokens, or 3 if it is a boss, and you refill them if necessary, so they're ready to move on the next round. Then you start a new hour by moving the disc to the next round and follow the same procedure. The game ends in one of these cases. If the hero wins or the traitor wins, your victory conditions are explained in the adventure decided to play. If all heroes and traitors die, or the last hour finished, and in this case the players lose the game because they didn't have enough time to finish what they were supposed to do in the adventure. Now, there are a lot of other elements in the game, but I'm not going to go through the details. You can save throws, for example, when you're doing some difficult saving throws in order to avoid damage, so you don't count the damage inflicted, only the dodge points created and the fumble penalty. You have special rooms like holy potion rooms that let you heal. You have trap rooms where you have to activate the trap. You have dangerous rooms. Again, you can have a different type of rooms like big rooms. When you have 4 rooms connected, then you put a big room on top of it. So if I had another red there, I would put immediately, let's say for the sake of example, if I had this room placed there, then that would be a big room, and I would indicate it by placing this tile above it to show that this is a big room now. You have also clue rooms to collect clues, tomb rooms to awake the bosses, and you have different other cases, elements and details as well. Now, the adventure elements, you have the clues when you have to identify a specific room in the dungeon, and the more clues you have, the more ideas you get on which specific room in the dungeon to navigate. So a room with 3 doorways, and it is in those orientation. And then if you take another clue, a room adjacent to one danger room, if there are at least 2 danger rooms in the dungeon. So all this can apply. If some reason you draw another card which has a room with 2 doorways contradicting this one, we discard it and draw another one. So this process with the clues helps you identify a very unique room that you need to locate depending on the adventure, and this is a very interesting aspect. You can have again the map card posts. So map cards are not always used in all games, but in most of them. It shows the locations where you have starting tiles and guard posts to indicate guards. It could be elite minions or minions. And then you have also the inspiration path. So you try to recreate this path because you want to reach a specific, according to the adventure location, to activate something, to get an artifact or whatever. If you have it on the same color as indicated on the map tile, you have a bonus +1 where defending. You can of course have other color of tiles, not necessarily red, but you don't get any bonus if so. And if you are anywhere outside of this path, you have -3 damage penalty. So all these are accounted for if you're playing with a map card in some of the adventures. You can have a PvP mode where you have a traitor, you can have a solo mode where playing with the normal rules, you can have a campaign mode, and there is also the interesting thing that you have different adventures. You have tutorial adventures which are easy, first exploration, there is magic, an alchemist refuge, hidden perils, strange things, the cursed night that helps you stepwise learn some of the rules and practice them, and then you can have either easy adventures or medium adventures or even hard adventures, and they're all described at the end of the rulebook, providing specific requirements if you're using a map, if you're trying to get the story behind it, of course, if what you're trying to achieve and what is the theme behind the adventure, but also in addition you have specific rules dictating if you're using map cards, if you're trying to defeat bosses, if you're trying to just escape, find the exit or something like that. So all this creates a very unique and different dungeon crawling with a lot of rules, but with so much satisfaction out of it. It's very interesting, unique, and gives you a very full experience. So there you have it. This is Temple of Horrors. I've covered most of the rules, but there are also many things and details that you can find in the rulebook and additional things. Of course, it may sound too much at the beginning, but the more you play, the more everything starts to make sense and fits right into place. So it makes both mechanical and thematic sense. Some really cool ideas here. As I mentioned before, I really enjoyed the combat system. It's very unique, it's very different. It has some dexterity aspect of it, and I can understand that not everybody's jumping off their seat for a dexterity aspect in combat system. But from my experience and from what I've tried so far, it works really well. And with the modifiers and the hit modifiers that you can do and the additional opportunities that you have, you can really manipulate it in a way that it works for you if you are well built and equipped for this. The exploration aspect is cool. The replayability of the game is tremendous. I mean, you can play such different games depending on the adventure itself. You can go for killing bosses, you can go for trying to get shards and escape from the temple, you can go in trying to locate different specific save people or get someone out of the dungeon, etc. So many cool ideas here, but one of the most cool and innovative is the way you shape the dungeon along the way in order to facilitate your plan and your solution for winning the game, at least your idea of winning the game. And the system of the AI, of the initiative and the enemies and the creatures are running towards you, trying to get you together with all the rich material of the components, too many tiles, too many cards, too many equipment, 7 characters to play, which have different profiles like the barbarian, the thief, the bard, etc. Together with all the gaming and gameplay elements of the game, really make this a very unique option, a very different game from all I have played, and I really love the dungeon crawling genre. And also it provides a gaming experience like nothing you've played before, very satisfying, highly replayable, and I highly recommend it. So this is Temple of Horrors. Check it out on GameFound. This is a game that I think is going to shock a lot of players out there with the fresh ideas and the unique things that brings on the table.